I refuse to say that women enjoy and seek out shopping experiences more often than men. I won't say it. Welcome back to Privy. Privy is a podcast about bathrooms, recorded from my home bathroom. I'm your host, Hunter Hoover, and I love bathrooms. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this time, and welcome back. Thanks for joining me in this bathroom space. You know, normally it's pretty intimate in here, and you might hear bathroom space. You'd be like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? Yes. Every episode's recorded from a bathroom. I don't say this that often. It's something that maybe I should remind people about more. But every episode of this podcast has been recorded and will be recorded from a bathroom. Now, it might not always be my home bathroom, but I'm always in a bathroom. And 99% of those episodes, I'm seated on a toilet. That's facts. Last year, we had a couple of episodes that are going to be important as it relates to the bathroom. But a little update, there was a hot minute there where I didn't have access to a bathroom at work. I mean, I did, but I had to work really hard for it, and I felt like it was unfair based on how hard I had to work. Some jackwagon had tried to flush, probably a vape. These kids are always flushing vapes in these toilets. And they had to redo a bunch of plumbing, and so they just took the men's bathroom straight out of the thing. Like, there's just no men's bathroom for a second. No men's toilet. And so I was scavenging for a bathroom. I was like, I'm about to just hit a bucket, you know. And, you know, we're back. We got some bathroom. We're back. That's what you need to know. The bathroom is fixed. We're good. But my bathrooming has been semi-regular. I will say, I noted last time the Shamrock Shake. I think the Shamrock Shake does something wild to a man's bathrooming. Because I drank a Shamrock Shake and I had the stinkiest farts. And like, it was to the point where Anna was threatening to like change sheets mid getting ready for bedtime. Like, it's pretty bad, just saying. But it happens, you know. The Shamrock Shake, Uncle O'Grimacy does it dirty to us sometimes, and that's just how we are. Last year, we had a couple of episodes that I'm going to tell you are going to be important for our conversations today. If you need to, or if you want to, go seek out these episodes. They're in our back catalog. First, we discussed sex-separated bathrooms. And in that episode, we looked at the history of sex-separated bathrooms in the United States. In short, we've been separating bathrooms on the lines of men and women as long as men and women have had to be interacting in the same spaces together. It's almost like maybe it's supposed to be that way. We also looked at the history of feminine hygiene in recognition of International Women's Day last year. Well, I should tell you, almost a full year has passed. And that means that it's time to observe International Women's Day again. And I gotta say, now that it feels like we're getting a bit closer here in America to like understanding a lot of these, it could be good to look at some ground rules related to the cultural phenomenon of these bathrooms being separate. What sort of ground rules should there be for separating bathrooms? And if there should be some, how do we know how far those rules should extend? And these concerns about fairness and public spaces introduces a new phenomenon, one which you would think wouldn't need to be in our world, but it's the idea of potty parity. We're going to be looking at potty parity this week. I want to know, when I say the word parody, I don't mean like Scary Movie 3 parody, where we're like making fun of stuff. It's parity. Parity. And it's another way of just saying equal. Now, equality is a word. So I wonder if we've just picked the potty parody for the alliteration. If you have parity in something, it means that you have equality, or they are equal in what they offer or what they say that they offer. When you think of someone facing disparity, it is related in that they are facing something that does not treat them equal to someone or something else. This is generally not a great thing, disparity. But here's a reminder. Equal does not mean the same. And it does not seek to make people the same. And so, amongst many sectors and facets of life, parity is something which is often good to strive for in theory, but can become more difficult the more complex things become in our culture and society. It's going to be important to note in our conversations about parity, the difference between equality and equity. To be equal, or equality, is more concerned with making sure everyone has an equal chance or opportunity for something. Equity is more concerned with making sure that everyone has the same outcomes. And that sounds good, except sometimes equity comes at the cost of equality and imposes itself on others in order to obtain it. This has been a problem that has been going on since kids were kids and decided to argue about whether something was fair or not. So yeah, parity. But today on Privy, we're going to look at parity specifically as it relates to the bathroom. And in our culture, how is that tied up to the idea of equal access in bathrooms, specifically for women? As is noted, the history of women's bathrooms doesn't go back too terribly long. That's mostly because the idea of a women's bathroom didn't really come to public until there were public bathrooms. And even then, they only started around the 80s. Before then, women just were expected to do their business at home. And they were not seen in the public life and in the public sphere as often as would necessitate them having a bathroom, let alone their own bathroom. So, it wasn't until there was these public bathrooms that there was even on the radar. And even then, the public bathrooms were more designed for men. They weren't designing them for women because women weren't out and about as often. It's in the mid-1800s and moving into the 1900s, especially as women began to enter the workforce, that the increase in need for bathroom spaces for women in these public or public adjacent settings became more prominent. Saloons and businesses prior to this had bathrooms for people to use, but they were generally a hole in the ground out back. I don't think there was a lot of ladies lining up to use that. I feel like they were smart enough to where they would just run home and use the one there. As women entered the workforce at the turn of the 20th century, it became more and more clear. If women are going to be employed alongside of men, they have got to have a place to go pee-pee and poo-poo that is not alongside of men. But as it became more and more common to find women in public spaces and in spaces where men and women were expected to work and inhabit those spaces together, or, as was sometimes the case, in public spaces without men, it became clear we need to rethink these bathrooms. And I have to tell you, if you go out and you go and try to learn a little bit for yourself about potty parity, I would highly encourage you to do that. Because every single article, all of them, usually when you do a little peek behind the curtain here, usually when there's some research done for this show, you'll find a mixed a cacophony of suggestions and opinions about a certain topic. And usually you kind of sift through those and you can kind of tell what's a fake, and you do a little bit of sniffing around to figure out, what's a good source and what's reliable. Rarely do you have the phenomenon that happened in the case of Potty Parity, which is all of the articles, every of the articles mentioning Potty Parity discusses the fact that women shop a lot as a point of evidence in support for the need of potty parity. In remembrance and in observance of International Women's Day, I'm me, your host here on the show, Hunter, me. I'm not going to say women shop more than men. I'm not going to say that. I don't say that, in fact. I refuse to say that women enjoy and seek out shopping experiences more often than men. I won't say it. I'm not going to say that women tend to like to spend money on clothes, bags, beauty products more often than men. I'm not gonna say that. I don't say it. And I didn't say it. Explicitly, the internet did say it, though, time and time again in these articles. Not me. I'm not saying that. If I was going to speak about the shopping habits of women, I definitely would not say that women like to shop on Amazon and it's a dopamine hit when the little box comes for them. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying right now. I just think it's an interesting point to note that so many of these articles are like, yeah, women really like shopping. But as it relates to potty parity, at first, potty parity particularly relates here in the United States is focused on being bathrooms for both men and women. Big fan of that idea. Potty parity then was doing well because things were equal. But I want to know, men and women have bathrooms and they have, in the most part, separate bathroom spaces. And that's pretty equal. But that's not what potty parity has become. What potty parity has become seems to be like this monster that never hasn't. That was parity. But there's a stark contrast that employers started to understand when they began to employ women. And I'm not saying this explicitly, I'm not saying that the employers found that women like to online shop. I'm not saying that. No, I'm just kidding. We're moving on. But what these employers found is that when they employed women and thus had to have a bathroom space for women, they had to use it that space came with a greater cost to the company. What I mean by that is that the space, it takes more space to put in the same number of women's toiletries as it does men. And it takes more space because of the creation and the use of the urinal. Men can stand to pee. And as a result, the stalls for men to pee in are much smaller, and you can fit more of them in less space than you can a place for a woman to pee, which is also the same as where men poop, in case you didn't know that. And so, employing women and having bathroom spaces that are specific to women became more costly to many employers for them to make it equal. And so there began to be concerns about liability, like, do we build more bathrooms or a bigger bathroom space for women so that way they have the equal number of stalls and things as men? Or do we encourage them, like, hey, let's maybe do things that are going to put women in a less desirable position? So this is the reality in mind, parity. Two matters related to parity. But before we jump, we need to take a look at the perceived female experience and how their concerns in the bathroom before we take a look at how we might proceed on the problem of potty parity. Women and girls often spend more time in the bathroom than men and boys for both physiological, the literal way that their bodies are made, and cultural reasons. I'd be curious to understand that. The claim, somehow in itself non-sexist, that women spend more time in the bathroom. Like, people just put that out there like, yeah, women spend more time in the bathroom than men, as if that's not, like, a little sexist. First of all, I don't know the numbers for these ladies, but I guarantee you I've got them beat. I've spent a lot of time in the bathroom over the course of making this show. Yeah, my numbers are way up. It's wild. I think part of this problem is because women do feel the need to go to the bathroom together. Check out our episode last month with my wife, Anna, where she explains, like, women go to the bathroom in pairs just to, like, talk and to be safe. Seems all too simple to me. I think there's more going on there. The requirement to use a cubicle rather than a urinal means urination is going to take longer. And hand washing must be done more thoroughly. I think the argument is like, because you have to sit and, like, interface with, like, paper to wipe yourself down, that you need to do a more thorough washing hand job. Now, I want to say, the act of just taming the hog and spraying snake is likely as messy than anything, and not having the hands-on experience. Like, I just feel like it's more messy. And so while I disagree that women's hands might get any more or less dirty, I think women on the whole are paying more attention to their hand washing than guys are. But like, that's a them problem. That's a choice that women make to wash their hands probably better than men. So the first suggestion that this potty disparity, this break in potty parity, is caused because of like the sheer number of like bathroom space. I don't know. Another suggestion is the prominence of urinary tract infections and incontinence in females. Apparently, urinary tract infections and incontinence are more common in the women. Sorry, ladies. It's an unfortunate stat. You can always check my sources down below. I always post my links. It's an unfortunate thing. And while I believe much of this is related to the specific equipment that women have, I think incontinence might sometimes be related to baby having. Like, I think if you have a baby or like too many babies and you like fart, sneeze, or burp too hard, you might tinkle a little bit. I don't know if that's real, but like, I think that's a thing. I gotta say, dude, being a woman's rough. Like, it's a tough world. I think we arrived at that conclusion as well last year when we started talking about like the feminine hygiene products, but like even the stat that incontinence is a greater option just as part of the experience. It's like, hey, you're a lady. You are statistically more likely to experience incontinence in your life. Really great. Pregnancy, menstruation, breastfeeding, and diaper changing are also claimed as reasons why women's usage of the bathroom is up. Now, only 3 of those things that I listed are specific to women when it comes to potty parity. In fact, I would argue that the statement that women take longer and they need a changing table in the bathroom where men need it less often is its own example of potty disparity. Men ought to have equal access to baby changers as women. They should. It's just facts. I'm not gonna lie. It's hard to get around those other 3. Like menstruating, having babies, and breastfeeding. Men don't do those. And as a result, men's bathroom spaces don't need spaces for those things. So those things can take up space. Yes, I'll grant that. The elderly, who are disproportionately female, take longer and more frequent bathroom visits. How the frick do you figure? Is it because men die earlier? That's most likely the case. That doesn't sound very much a parody-y to me. It's like some things about this world are just not fair. Like, I could guff and groan. I'm like, oh, men die sooner than women. That's not fair. I want equitable outcomes. Like, the equitable outcomes on that are not a thing that you can pursue. Equality acknowledges that and says, yeah, that's the shake, and they have equal access to the things they could do to live longer as a man. And equity says, no, men and women need to try to have the equal amount of time. It's like, if you go about this stuff, it can be so harrowing when it's taken to the extreme. That's all I'm going to say. It's a rough look if you take these things to extreme. So these are some of the arguments regarding women. They spend more time in the bathroom. They do a greater number of acts in the bathroom. They're susceptible to more bathroom-reliant conditions and ailments and features. Modern-day potty parity says women's bathrooms should be bigger. And I'm actually okay with that idea. If a company has the money and the floor space to make the women's bathroom bigger, I say make it bigger. They're going to be doing things men won't have to do in that bathroom. Put a breastfeeding area in some spaces. It's fine. And all the people are like, well, I'll breastfeed my kid wherever I darn well please. Fine. Just keep in mind that other people might not want to see you. Like, when you are exposing your part of your body, just think about others for like 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That's why I don't have my butt crack hanging out all the time. Because I try to think about, oh man, is my stanky crack going to offend somebody? It's okay to cover that up. It's fine. But to say that women need more bathrooms so they have more stalls seems weird. I get women only have one option, but it doesn't mean double. Also, the history of potty parity is directly connected to and wrapped up in the history and rejection of pay toilets. There was a time in our nation's history where women had to pay to pee and men did not, because men could pee on the street and women needed to pay a toll to get into a bathroom. Nowadays, it seems women need twice the floor space because their jobs are less efficient. And that's not my concern. I think this is one of those things we could handle via common sense. But that's not how people solve their problems anymore. Nowadays, when people have a lot of problems, they feel the need to get the government involved. American public interest lawyer, legal activist, and professor at Georgetown University, which tells you that he's all around real champion of a guy, John Francis Banzhaf III, nerd. John Francis Banzhaf III. You know, you had 2 rounds of 2 generations of people where you could have sorted out the John Francis thing. Like, you didn't have to go John Francis II, and then you definitely could have swapped it up for the third. But what do I? John Francis Banzhaf III is the self-proclaimed father of potty parity. In his time as a public interest lawyer, in the course of making a fortune of money as well, don't forget, he became very wealthy off of all these things. John Francis Banzhaf whatever has levied lawsuits against the tobacco industry, has criticized drink machine companies at fast food restaurants. He's one of the lawyers who tried to sue McDonald's for making kids fat, rather than suing their parents for feeding them McDonald's all the time. He can be seen making these comments and discussing this in the hit documentary Super Size Me, levying these concerns. Very recently, John Frankie Banzhaf III helped levy legislation against President Donald Trump. The guy seems out of control. He seems a little bit Sue happy to me, this father of potty parity. This guy seems out of control in these things, so much so that the website bandshalfwatch.com was started with the slogan, quote, keeping an eye on the man who wants to sue America. This guy claims to be the father of potty parity. And that's because he's reported as arguing that if you just have equal facilities for male and female, you are engaging in sex discrimination against women. Not men, women. Again, he believes that if you give men and women equal bathroom space, you are being sexist. Now, I want to admit, and I think many people would admit if they take just a second to reason it out, women need more space. And I'm fine with them having it. I don't care about them having more space, but I want you to understand that's not equality, that's equity. They want equal outcomes. They want women's experience in the bathroom and the speed at which they can go into the bathroom and get out to be the same as men. The problem is the outcomes haven't been equal, and they've come at the cost of businesses. And there have been moments and reports of places that have this double women's bathroom ratio. And there's instances of men waiting now with women not having to. There have been a number of proposed solutions to the problem of potty parity. Remember, the goal is to give women equal access and meet their bathroom-specific needs. It also should be noted, there have been a few paths. As we bring this episode to a close, I want to put forth a few ideas related to how to solve this potty parity concern and our suggested ratio for bathrooms. One popular and more like on the rise trending solution to the concern of potty parity are gender-neutral bathrooms. I'm a big proponent for gender-neutral bathrooms, but they cannot be in spaces where men or women can access other men or women behind closed doors without their consent. They have to be safe. They have to be smart. And so, if you are going to have separated men's and women's bathrooms, if you're not going to do gender-neutral solves a lot of these problems of parity, because now you have men and women waiting for the exact same room. Now, instead of one group of people waiting, you got everybody waiting, you know what I'm saying? Another solution is the use of women's urinals. Yes, these exist. And they're kind of finagly, and they're kind of tough to install. And it's one of those things where it's like, when the Coca-Cola company put out their new Coke Freestyle machines, it took a while for it to catch on. And the reason it took a while for it to catch on is because for years, when a person walked up to a Coke machine, they pushed their Coke against that little like lever thingy, and it like the Coke out. And the Coke Freestyle thing has an electronic screen where you push a digital button that dispenses the Coke. And that simple little change was a barrier to a lot of people. If you try to introduce women's urinals, even though it might help solve some of these problems, there's going to be an incredible hesitancy and an incredible learning curve related to these things. Another path forward would be to simply begin to try to find a better ratio for men's and women's bathrooms. And so I have a proposal to make here. My proposal for the number of men's bathroom facilities to women's is this. Men should have, like, whatever the number is, for every 2 urinals, there should be 1 more women's toilet. So however many toilets you have, done. Now, for every 2 urinals, you should have 1 more women's toilet. Meaning, if in a men's bathroom, you have 2 sit-down poopy toilets and 2 stand-up pee-pee toilets, in the women's bathroom, you should have 3 sit-down poo-poo pee-pee toilets. That's my ratio. Now, people might hear that and they'll go, oh, well, that's not fair, because, again, I would argue the fact that women in that situation can go 3 deep on a Chaz Deluxe drop and men cannot isn't fair. Like, it's not fair. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, life's not fair. Get a helmet. We do our best. We find the systems and the things that begin to make the most sense and address this the best way while still operating inside the world of reason. So again, the Potty Parity golden ratio of justice and equality is for every 2 male urinals, there should be 1 additional female toilet. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about our potty parity ratio? Let us know in the comments. We don't do that very often. Comment down below. Give us your ratio down below. This will bring us to the end of another episode of Privy. Thanks so much for joining us. Thank you for being here. As always, at the end of the show, we encourage you to leave us a rating or review. The 5-star options are preferred, and for every rating you leave, we'll donate $1 to the Wounded Warriors and Living Water International, reminding you to keep pooping in the free world. The free world was not always free. And as a reminder to pursue cleaner water for all. Not everyone has clean water, but everyone should. Follow us on social at Privycast. You can follow me. I'm at Owlet7. If you're brave, you can go check out at Randy Bowles. We're trying to do more stuff on social. Check out the Privies. We have a Facebook group. If you want to see some ridiculous bathroom memes, go search up the Privies in Facebook groups and check out some of the ridiculous bathroom memes we got flying around over there. If you have ideas, comments, concerns, episode suggestions, if I had a weird little something in my beard and you just can't live without it, comment down on the YouTube. We got this stuff on YouTube now. Put it in there. Or you can send us an email, privycast@gmail.com. The other thing that you can do is you can go visit our website, privy-cast.com. We got all sorts of fun stuff going over there. Check it out. We'd love for you to go see that. Thanks to Kevin and Podington for the use of your music again this week. You can check out Kevin and Podington's things in the ding dong below. If you're looking to start a podcast here at Privy, we have been regular users of Podbean services. If you're looking to start a podcast, use our affiliate link in the thing below, and it can get you signed up for a podcast, and it gives a little kickback and just says, hey, this show Privy was influential in me choosing to come to this platform. We've been happy with Podbean. We love Podbean. Podbean's been very helpful and very good to us, and so go check that out if you're interested in starting a podcast. This brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Thank you so much for being here. Keep pooping in the free world. Own your stank. And now, as always, don't forget to flush.